A very good morning to Madam and our fellow friends. We are from Group E3. Today we are going to present Tutorial 3, Topic 5. The member in Group E3 involved Chang Shi-in, Liu Xin-min, Muhammad Sani bin Samsudin, Yong Pei-ling, Ruba Surya Anak Perempuan, Ravin Tiran.
Greetings, madam. I'm Rubusura Ravindran. My matrix number is 271208. I will be discussing about question 1A. So in that question, they've already mentioned that all materials were added at the beginning of the process. They've also stated the beginning working process, which is 200 units, 60% with respect to conversion, and ending working process is 500 units, 10% with respect to conversion, followed by units started during the process is 3000 units. Question 1A is to do schedule of physical flow. The format is as shown. We must begin with units to account for, where we will add units in beginning working process 200 units and units started during the period, which is 3000 units. So we will get total units to account for as 3200 units. And then we must calculate units accounted for. The total for both must be same, which is 3200 units. Even though the format is as shown, the way may vary. So in this situation, we already know the total units accounted for, which is 3200 units. So we can do from down to top. So we must minus that total units accounted for with units in ending working process, which is 500 units. So we will get 2700 units as the unit completed and transferred out. In that, 200 units is the beginning working process. So when we minus it, we will be getting 2500 units as units started and completed. For question B, we must find out the equivalent unit of production using weighted average method. The formula is as shown. So we must separate the direct material and conversion to calculate equivalent unit. To calculate that, we must put in units completed in both direct material and conversion, which is 2700 units. And then we must add in units in ending working process, which is 500 units multiplied with the percentage to complete. So for the direct material, 500 unit must be multiplied with 100% because they said that all materials were added at the beginning of the process. So we will get 500 units. And then for conversion, we must multiply 500 units with 10% as stated in the statement, and then we will get 50 units. So the total equivalent units of output for direct material will be 3200 units and 2750 units for conversion. Question C, the equivalent units calculated under the weighted average method is unaffected by the degree completion of the beginning inventory because to calculate equivalent unit of output, we use ending inventory and not beginning. So even though that changes happen in part B as 80%, it won't affect the equivalent unit.
A very good morning to Madam and my fellow friends. My name is Liu Xin-min, matric number 270842. Now I'm going to present Tutorial 3, Question 1B. The information that already given by the question is beginning work in process, which is 20,000 units, ending work in process, which is 15,000 units, and units started in process during October, which is 90,000 units. Before we prepare a physical flow schedule, we need to find total unit completed and total unit started and completed. To find the total unit completed, we need to use unit in beginning work in process, which is 20,000 units, plus unit started in process during October, which is 90,000 units. So the total unit work in process equal to 110,000 units, minus unit in ending work in process, which is 15,000 units, equal to 95,000 units, which is total unit completed. To find the total unit started and completed, we need to use unit completed, which is 95,000, minus unit beginning work in process, which is 20,000 units, equal to 75,000 units. So A, prepare a physical flow schedule. We need to write the title of the physical flow schedule first, which is company name Success Sendirian Berhad, physical flow schedule for the end of October. Units to account for, which is unit in beginning work in process, which is 20,000 unit. Unit started during the period, which is 90,000 unit. So the total unit to account for is 110,000 unit. So the unit accounted for, we need to use unit completed and transfer out plus unit in ending work in process. Inside the unit completed and transferred out, we need to use started and completed, which is 75,000 unit, plus from beginning work in process, which is 20,000 unit. So the total unit completed and transferred out is 95,000 unit, plus unit in ending work in process, which is 15,000 unit. So the total unit accounted for is also 110,000 unit. Compute equivalent unit using the FIFO method. So before we calculate the equivalent unit of output, we need to separate in two departments, which is material and conversion. So units started and completed in these two departments is same, which is 75,000 unit. So we need to plus unit beginning work in process times percentage completed, which is 100% minus 80% times 20,000 unit, which is 4,000 unit. We need to write in conversion, plus unit ending work in process times percentage to completed, which is direct material, which is 15,000 unit times 100% in material. So the total is 15,000 unit. Conversion cost, which is also same, using 15,000 unit times 40%, which is 6,000. So the equivalent unit of output for department material is 90,000 unit, but for the conversion department, the equivalent unit of output is 85 unit. That's all from me. Thank you.
A very good morning to Madam. My name is Chang Shi-Ying with matrix number 270-37. I will continue with question 2. Question 2 show the data for Chorak Department of Adab Rumbia Sdn Bhd for August. The units in beginning work in process consist of 40,000 units that were 60% complete, unit completed and transferred out with 120,000 units, and units in ending work in process on 31 of August consists of 40,000 units that were 60% complete. The cost of beginning work in process on 1st of the August is 144,000 ringgit Malaysia. The current cost is 604,800 ringgit Malaysia, and get the total amount of the cost, which is 748,800 ringgit Malaysia. Let's start with question 2A. Question 2A asks to prepare a physical flow analysis for the Chorak Department for August. First step is to record the units in beginning work in process inventory of 40,000 units. The second step is to record the units started during the period as shown of 120,000 units. The third step is to sum these two units for total units to account for, which become 160,000 units. For computing total units accounted for, the first step is to record the units completed and transferred out, which is started and completed plus from beginning work in process. Units started and completed of 80,000 units is units completed of 120,000 units minus units beginning work in process of 40,000 units. So, completed and transferred out of 120,000 units is started and completed of 80,000 units plus from beginning work in process of 40,000 units. The second step is to record the units in ending work in process 40,000 units. The third step is to sum these two units for a total of 160,000 units. Therefore, the units to account for and units accounted for are 160,000 units. Notice the two total agree indicating that all units have been accounted for. Now, we move to question 2b. Question 2b asks to calculate equivalent units of production for the throw rug department for August. The first step is to determine the units started and completed during the period, which is 80,000 units. Calculation for units started and completed have shown in last slide, which is units completed minus units beginning work in process. Units started and completed is 80,000 units. Units started and completed of 80,000 units plus from beginning work in process of 40,000 units, so completed and transferred out become 120,000 units. The second step in the accounting process is to add the equivalent units complete in ending work in process with 60% complete. So units in ending work in process need to times 60% become 24,000 units. The third step is to sum these two units. This calculation results in 144,000 equivalent units. Next, question 2c asks to calculate the unit cost for the throw rug department for August. The formula for computing the cost per equivalent unit is adding together the cost of beginning work in process and the current cost during the period. Then, divide the number of equivalent units of production. Let's look at the calculation of the cost per equivalent units. First, cost of beginning work in process 144,000 ringgit Malaysia plus current cost during August of 604,800 ringgit Malaysia, and get the total cost of 748,800 ringgit Malaysia. Then the total cost divide the number of equivalent units we previously calculated, which is 144,000 units. Therefore, the units cost for the throw rug department for August is 5 ringgit and 20 cents. Now we move to question 2d. The question given shows that the cost per unit calculated in C is a weighted average of the FIFO cost per equivalent units in beginning work in process and the FIFO cost per equivalent unit for August. Hint, the weight are in proportion to the number of units from each source. First, calculate the cost per unit for the equivalent units in beginning work in process, which is cost of beginning work in process divide the equivalent units in beginning work in process. Cost of beginning work in process of 144,000 ringgit Malaysia divide equivalent units in beginning work in process with 60% completion, which is 40,000 units times 60% become 24,000 units. So the result in cost per units of the equivalent units in beginning work in process is 6 ringgit. Next, calculate the current period FIFO cost per unit, which is cost of current period divide FIFO equivalent units. FIFO equivalent units of 120,000 units equals weighted average equivalent units of 144,000 units minus equivalent units in beginning work in process of 24,000 units. After find out the FIFO equivalent units, we can calculate current period FIFO cost per unit by divide cost of current period of 604,800 ringgit Malaysia with FIFO equivalent units 120,000 units. The result in current period FIFO cost per unit is 5 ringgit and 4 cents. Lastly, calculate the weighted average unit cost is cost of beginning work in process plus cost of current period divided weighted average equivalent units. The cost of beginning work in process equals equivalent units of 24,000 units times cost per unit of the equivalent units in beginning work in process 6 ringgit and become the total cost of 144,000 ringgit Malaysia. For cost of current period equals FIFO equivalent units times current period FIFO cost per unit 5 ringgit and 4 cents equal the total cost of 604,800 ringgit Malaysia. The sum of cost of beginning work in process and cost of current period is 748,800 ringgit Malaysia. Then divide the weighted average equivalent units of 144,000 units, and the result of weighted average unit cost is 5 ringgit and 20 cents. That's all for my part. Thank you. I will pass to my group members to continue with question 2E.
Good morning, madam. My name is Yong Pei Ling, and my metric number is 271,127. And I would like to present the question for 2E, 3A, and 3B1. Okay, for our question 2E, we need to prepare a production report for 31 August with the weighted average method. And inside the production report, we will have two parts, which is the first part is the unit information, and the second part is the cost informations. And inside the unit information, we will have physical flow and the equivalent units. Before I move to the physical flow have a formula, which is the unit in beginning work in process plus the unit started will be equal to the unit completed plus the unit in ending work in process. So due to this formula, we will also have two parts inside our physical flow, which is for the left hand side is the unit in beginning work in process about 40,000 plus the unit started 120,000. Then our total unit to account for will be equal to 160,000. That those amount can find inside the question. And for our right hand side is the unit account for our unit completed and the unit ending work in process. The unit completed 120,000, the calculation already mentioned inside the question 2A. And the unit in ending work in process about 40,000 is already mentioned inside our question. If we plus it together, the total units accounted for will be also equal to 160,000, same like our left hand side. And the second is the equivalent units. The equivalent units, we need to use the unit completed plus the unit in ending work in process, which is the unit completed are already mentioned inside the question 2A, the calculation, and the unit in ending work in process will also already mentioned inside our question 2B. And the unit completed 120,000 will be plus with the unit in ending work in process about 24,000, and our total equivalent unit will be equal to 144,000. Now we will move to the cost information, which is we need to plus together the cost in beginning work in process about 144,000 plus the cost incurred during the period about 604,800 ringgit. After we plus it together, it will be equal to 748,000 ringgit. After we calculate the total cost, we will need to calculate for our cost per equivalent unit also. So we will use the cost divided by our total equivalent units, which is we use the 748,800 divided by our 144,000 units. After divide together, it will become 5 ringgit and 20 cents. This is our cost per equivalent units. And the second, after this, we will need to calculate for the cost for goods transfer out. The goods transfer out, which is we need to use the cost per equivalent unit plus multiple the unit of our good transfer out. The unit of our good transfer out is about 120,000. So we use the 120,000 to multiply the 5 ringgit 20 cent, then it will be equal to 624,000, which is we need to record inside the column of transfer out. And the total will also be 624,000. And the second is the goods in ending work in process. The good in ending work in process will be 24,000 units multiply the 5 ringgit and 20 cents. After multiply it, the amount will be equal to 124,800 ringgits. And the total will be same. After that, if we plus together the cost that goods transfer out and the cost of goods in ending work in process, it will be also equal to 748,800. Same with the previous part, the amount will be same. Now I would like to present about the question 3. And the question already stated that the ASP used the first in first out, which is the FIFO method on its process costing system. The information that given have the beginning inventory of work in process. The physical unit was 6,000 units, and the percentage of completion of the conversion costs is the 60%, and the total unit to account for is 22,000 units. And the ending inventory of work in process for the physical units is the 4,000 units, and the percentage of the completion of conversion costs is 40%. Okay, now we will move to the question 3a, which the question mentioned that we need to calculate the equivalent units for the direct material and the conversion cost with the assumption that the direct material are added at the beginning of the process, which means that the direct material during the beginning work in process will be 100% completed. So we will prepare a table to calculate our equivalent of productions. Inside the table, we need to calculate 3 things, which is the first is the beginning work in process for the direct material and the conversion cost. And the second is the unit started and completed during the period. And the third one is ending work in process of direct material and the conversion cost. And first, we will calculate the beginning work in process for our direct material and the conversion cost. During this calculation, we need to use the physical units of beginning work in process times the percentage that needed to be completed. So if we want to find the percentage of the percentage that needed to be completed, we need to use 100% to minus with the percentage of completed, which means that for the direct material, the beginning work in process will be 100% completed for the direct material. So during this calculation, the direct material will use the 100% minus the 100%, so it will be 0%. And then the 0% will be used to times with the physical units of beginning work in process, about 6,000 units. So 6,000 units times 0%, it will be equal to 0 for the direct material. Okay, and for the conversion cost, the beginning work in process will be equal to 60%. So we need to use the 100% to minus with the 60%, so it will be equal to 40%. The 40% will use to times with the
units of 6,000 units, so the answer will be 2,400. And the second is the unit started and completed during the period, during the February. As we know that if we want to calculate the unit started and completed during the period, we need to use the total unit account for to minus with the beginning work in process and minus the ending work in process. As the question already given the total unit to account for about 22,000 and the beginning work in process is 6,000 units and the ending work in process is 4,000 units. So we just use the 22,000 minus 6,000 and minus the 4,000. So we will get the answer of 12,000 for both the direct material and the conversion cost. And then for the third calculation is the ending work in process, which during this calculation we just need to use the physical units of ending work in process times the percentage of completed. So, which is for the direct material, we use 4,000 units to times with 100% that already completed. So it will be equal to 4,000 for the direct material in ending work in process, and the conversion cost during the ending work in process will be 40%. So we just straight away use the units of 4,000 unit times the 40%. So it will be equal to 106,000. 1,600. Okay. So we just use the calculation. We just use the answer that we calculate just now. For the direct material, we use 12,000 plus the 4,000 units. So the equivalent unit of direct material will be equal to 16,000. And for the conversion cost, we use the 2,400 plus 12,000 plus 1,600. It will also be equal to 16,000 for the conversion cost of the equivalent units. Okay, now we will move to the question 2B1, which the question still asking us to find the equivalent units, but this time is only for the direct material. And we also have an assumption that the direct material are added uniformly throughout the process, which means that the conversion cost completion percentage will be equal to the direct material completion percentage. And same like previous question, we still prepare a table to calculate our equivalent units for the direct material. First, the beginning work in process of direct material. Just like what I said just now, the percentage will be same with the conversion cost. So the question mentioned that the beginning work in process of conversion cost will be 60%. So it will also equal with the percentage of direct material. So during the first calculation, the direct material, we just need to use the 100% minus 60%. After will be equal to 40%, and the 40% we will use to times with the 6,000 units. Then it will be equal to 2,400. And the second, unit started and completed during the February. Same like the explanation for the previous answer. We just use the total unit account for about 22,000 minus with the unit of beginning work in process 6,000 and minus the ending work in process unit about 4,000, and it will be equal to 12,000 for the direct material. And the third one is the ending work in process. During this calculation, we use the physical unit of ending work in process times with the percentage of completed, which is the 4,000 times with 40%. Then it will be equal to 1,600. And we just total up three of the calculation, and the equivalent of production of direct material will be equal to 16,000.
Hi, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Muhammad Sani bin Samsudin. My metric number is 270903. Today I will present for the question number 3B, which we need to calculate the equivalent units for direct materials only. And based on the following assumptions is we need to do the calculations for the direct materials are added after 50% completed. As you see, for the complete beginning work in process, the direct materials is 6,000 units times 0%, which will be the resulting for 0 units. And for the unit started and completed during the period, which is February, we will do the calculation by minus the 22,000, minus 6,000, minus 4,000, and will resulting to 12,000. And for the ending work in process, the direct material which is 4,000 unit will times with 0%. That will resulting for 0 units for direct material, and the equivalent unit of direct material will be 12,000 unit. As for question 3B, number 3, we need to calculate the direct materials added after 30% completed. So for the direct materials, the calculation for the beginning work in process for direct material is still the same, which is 6,000 times 0%, resulting in 0 units. And for the unit started and completed during February, still the same, which is 12,000 units. And for ending work in process, there will be a slight difference between question number 3 and question number 2, which is for the question number 3, direct materials for 4,000 unit will be times with 100%. That will be resulting around 4,000 units, and the equivalent unit of direct material is 16,000 units. The last question for question number 3 is question 3C. The question is state that in the era of Industrial Revolution 4.0, ASP plans to adopt just-in-time system, and we need to explain 4 points how the adoptions of a JIT system to manufacturing affects process costings. First, JIT production system cut inventory costs. Due to that, because manufacturers do not have to pay storage costs, manufacturers are also not left with unwanted inventory if an order is cancelled or not fulfilled. Second, it will let manufacturers reduce their overhead expense while always ensuring the resources are available to manufacture their products. This allows a company's customer to be better served while at the same time lowering the cost of doing business. Third is using the IT system to manufacturing. The company will has a better control over its manufacturing cost and process. Hence, they can easily adapt with any change without a greater loss if the needs of customer change. And the last one is the adoption of GIT system to manufacturing affects process costing is labor expense will be reduced due to the number of labors needed during the production is likely to be lower than the labor needed for full-time production. It will result in to reduce the probability for loss for the company. That's all from me. Thank you.